Hi everyone, welcome back to the channel. I hope you're doing well. Like I said in the previous video, Shashwath is in the middle of a winter break, so I'm able to drag him out and ask him to have a conversation with us about things that may be of interest to new investors like you and me. Yesterday, we managed to talk about Nike and a little bit about Intel, and also to give a preamble to the Substack article he's been working on, which should come on Substack Live any moment soon, where you can find out more information about Nike and the analysis he's put into Nike. I do hope you go read it and subscribe to that. It's very useful for new investors like you and me. That said, talking about macroeconomics, I thought Shashwat can lay out the land on what is happening in the US and why we as investors should be paying attention to this.
Yeah. So there's something interesting happening in the US. The direct relevance of which may be felt in terms of the economy, but it's more of a sanity check to exactly see what's going on. So in coding and mathematics and the engineering field, there are things known as sanity checks if viewers aren't familiar with it, where you basically have a test or a check where you see whether a criteria is fulfilled, and it's a very obvious criteria. For example, if you're eating, one of the sanity checks is that you have more energy during the day. I mean, of course, if you're going to eat, then that is an outcome which is supposed to happen. So you basically have tests to make sure that things are operating as they are and relationships are working the way relationships are supposed to be working. So one such sanity check which we can conduct today, a barometer even in the US economy, is that there is a data point known as default rate. Default rate is when people are unable to make timely payments on their loans. And when I say people, I mean both corporates and individuals like you and me. So the default rate in the US on loans is the highest it's been since the past 4 years. So since the COVID period to now, this has been the highest default rate thus far. That's a very important point because the default rate tells us that whether people are suffering or not under a particular macroeconomic condition. So if people are defaulting, that either means or may mean lower incomes, unemployment, may mean high interest rates, meaning that the costs of borrowing it is high, and it may mean that people have leveraged too much and they're unable to pay back those loans, not because interest rates are too high, but just because they've taken on too much on their plate in terms of just a raw amount of loans. So there could be many reasons for this. The reason here why this is such an important thing is because interest rates have been quite high in the US, higher than they have been for the past decade or so. And for a while, it seemed as if the US was not facing that pressure because unemployment rates were stable, inflation was coming down, of course, but unemployment rates were not moving up in the ticker, and income seemed to remain pretty much the same. There wasn't much in the terms of reducing wages or anything like that. So there was a question to be had as to whether higher interest rates was going to act the way it was supposed to act. And today we're seeing that yes, interest rates are acting the way they're supposed to, because when interest rates are raised, that basically means that borrowers are forced to pay a higher cost of borrowing. So a lot of lending took place in 2020 where there were persistently low rates, almost 0% rates. There was a lot of financing that was done then. And when interest rates go up, small to medium enterprises tend to have a lot of pressure on them economically. And when there is this pressure, they need to refinance their loans. And when they're trying to refinance their loans, lo and behold, you have a very high rate of interest. So when you're trying to refinance, you have to jump up from the 0% or close to 0% where you were borrowing to now a 5%, which you did not account for. And you are unable to pay back this loan now, and that counts as a default. And even any sort of provisions which a lender gives you counts as a default because it's not the original terms that were agreed on, and the terms are being relaxed to the person who's borrowing, the borrower, to be basically be able to pay back the lender. So this is also considered as a default. So this default is now attributed to the default rate, which we're seeing, which has spiked ever since the past 4 years. And there seems to be a lot of pressure going on in the US economy. So what do you think about this?
I agree. The basic problem, what's happening is the Fed is in a damned if you do, damned if you don't situation. Because as far as the inflation is concerned, they would like it to be below 2. And for some strange reason, it is refusing to go below 2. It came to 2, then kind of slightly ticked up, and I think it's at 2.7 or 2.8 now. And
Yeah.
it's not moving further down. So it's a trajectory which they don't want to see. Though it's a very small movement upwards, we'll have to wait and watch what happens once Trump takes over the presidency. How much of whatever rhetoric he's been saying, he actually follows through, and he does. Because in the short term, for the next 2 years, any ideas he's got in terms of tariff and all the other things he's got, like sending migrants out and the chaos that will come from that, will definitely fuel inflation in the US. It'll fan inflation. And it's not going to be any good news as far as the Fed is concerned. That is why they're not very keen, and he's been very hawkish about the economy, and he's been saying, let's wait and watch. And he's saying, yeah, I would love to cut interest rates, but I don't see it happening. For the simple reason, there can't be any reason to reduce interest rates any further until and unless the inflation starts really moving on a downward trajectory. So I can understand that. That's the main reason why this is happening. So if you're a borrower, let's say you're a small middle income house in the US, you have two problems attacking you at the same time. One is your borrowing cost. Your credit card loans are more expensive. Your home loans are more expensive. Your car loans are more expensive, right? So you're bleeding there. Then to top it all off, all your monthly budgets, your provisions for your groceries, gas, I don't think it's a big problem for the Americans. But groceries is a huge problem because they do import lots of things from Canada and Mexico as far as their groceries and staples are concerned. They really don't make all of it in the United States, in the border of United States. So that plus wage inflation is also hitting them in all facets because unemployment numbers are also down. So it's a weird situation to be in if you look at it economically. Though people are feeling a lot of pain, there is a little they can do in terms of to address the pain. It's more like they have to allow this bleeding to happen for some time, then to see which way the dice falls, and then the Fed can move. Because if, let's say, this kind of bleeding happens, defaults happen, it forces inflation to come down because of lack of consumption. Consumption starts coming down, inflation, of course, will come down, and then the Fed will cut interest rate to reignite interest in the economy. Or the reverse happens. Let's say, inflation starts ticking up further, starts crawling itself way back up to closer to 3% thanks to new policies by Trump. Then Fed will have no choice but to crank in interest rates up again, which they don't want to do. They'll be forced to doing that. And that would lead to further inflation and further pain. So I don't know what would be the right way to roll this out. What would help is to have Congress and the Senate and the president all working together in tandem, in harmony, and policies and proposals moving fast, whatever they are. I'm not saying it has to be cost cutting or it has to be increasing tax. Whatever they do decide to do, they move coherently and cohesively together, and they move in tandem. That would give more confidence to the market and would give clarity to investors and borrowers on what they can expect to happen. What is leading further and compounding this problem and making it worse is all the bickering and back and forth which is going and no clarity. The elections is over. He's got his mandate, but he doesn't act like he's got the victory and he's got a mandate, which sounds rather weird. And all the things he spoke about while campaigning, he's talking about none of that now. And he's talking about strange things like taking Greenland over and, taking Panama over and making Canada a part of the United States. And Elon Musk is saying we should have cognitive tests for their leaders. And I'm like, wait, if that's the case, then your current president who's coming in doesn't seem very clear on cognition. But anyway, that's another story. I don't want it to become political because I know there are a lot of people who love him. I understand that. I don't hate him or love him. I just want clarity so as an investor, I know where to go and which way I can bread my toast, as to say. That's what I feel. What do you think?
Yeah, I think that it's quite possible that we see some sort of pressure in the economy. I'm not saying that this is the only indicator which we should look at or this is a large indication, but I do think it's going to be an important indicator. It's with a confluence of other factors. That is, we look at the inflation rate and the actual GDP growth rate. We need to look at all these factors to be able to get a pulse on the economy. But I do think that this is an important number to look at. And this number tells me that America seems to be headed in a way where growth might slow down in the upcoming future. I don't know what Trump is going to do, but regardless of what he does, I don't think he has it in his power to be able to forestall what's coming because of interest rates being higher. And if he tries to push inflation higher, then I think Powell has no option but to keep interest rates where they are. And that may mean that growth is going to possibly come down. And during this period, you'll have to pick and choose which investments you want to be in and which areas you want to be in, because it's going to be a lot more tricky than saying that everything is going to go down or everything is going to go up. Those are the easiest scenarios as investors. When you
Correct.
can say that everything is going to go up, pick whichever one, put your lot to tie your lot to whichever horse, and the horse is going to go the same direction. But when some horses are running outside the stadium, some are sleeping on the track, some are running backwards, you need to pick and choose which horse looks a little sane and pick that and ride on that. So, yeah.
This is true for India also. You just can't rely on the broader market to support your investments now. If you are, you're not going to see the kind of returns you're used to seeing. So this is a great time if you're a value investor to pick and choose, like Shashwat said, be it in the US, be it in India. You should find pockets of value here and there, companies which are being ignored by the market, which are at great value, which have a great moat, great product, which you understand. Then you should be investing in those companies. So Shashwat is right in what he's saying.
Yeah, I completely agree with you, but I do want to just add on that if you're not an investor who wants to do value investing, it still makes sense to do dollar cost averaging or SIPing in the Nifty 50 or the S&P 500. Yes, I did say that picking and choosing certain horses makes sense, but in the long run, of course, the economy moves in a certain direction, especially the US one, and I'm sure that the Indian one will too, because I'm a patriot at heart and I trust India is going to move forward in a very high growth fashion, hopefully. And I can say the same for the US. So dollar cost averaging or SIPing in the long run still makes sense. But for those of you who want to capitalize on the chaos and want to find value purchases, I think there are opportunities there, is what I meant to say.
I agree. I agree. So, whichever you would like to flip on to that. And remember to stay within your risk range. If it's different coffee range or whichever range which you're at, which you're comfortable with, which you're wise with, say that and do get a financial advisor, like Shashwat always says. Even if you're in the American market, having a financial advisor is sound and sensible, especially when you're investing from India. It is so far away. And if you don't follow news locally and you're not following macroeconomically, a financial advisor will give you insight into these things. So do consider that, if not anything else. Thanks for watching the video as always. We did enjoy having this conversation with you. Me and Shashwat will try and come again soon with another stock, this time maybe an Indian company, to talk about for the coming year ahead and how we can look at that company as an investment option. Again, do like and share this channel with friends and family, whomsoever you think would enjoy this kind of content. Nothing more to say. We wish you a wonderful evening, and me and Shashwat will see you again tomorrow or another day. Thank you.
Thank you. Hey guys, that my uncles Vinod Srinivasan, Anand Srinivasan, and I have rolled out our Substack, which is basically a blog slash newsletter where we're going to post our original research onto it. And we've analyzed macroeconomic trends. And a lot of you know my uncle Anand Srinivasan and I regularly write for The Hindu. And these articles are also going to be made available for you in the Substack. The link is moatinvesting.substack.com. You'll find it in the description and in the video right now. We hope you go check it out. We've put a lot of time and effort into it. And please give us comments and feedback on what you read. Thank you.